3 ways to go up your mast. Here's some tips.
Sailing. Virgins.
How's it going, guys? Marco here from Sailing Virgins, and we got to go up our mast today. If you own a boat or living on a boat, there's definitely going to be a chance when you're going to have to head up your mast. So we thought we'll just explain how to do it safely using 3 different methods. So the 3 methods we're going to teach you: first, we're going to teach you the traditional bosun chair going up. Second method we're going to teach you is climbing up with the bosun chair, and the third method is a single-handed solo climbing up the mast. Quite useful. So let's get into it.
Yeah!
So there's endless reasons why you might have to go up your mast. Some of the most common ones are just doing a normal rigging check, checking your split pins. Quite often I've had to go up to, have a look at the Windex at the top and the lights and those kind of things. There's honestly endless reasons, and today it's just to lube up the track so our mainsail goes up and down more easily. The first thing I would say is don't rely on your shackles. Tie a bowline. You can always trust your knots. If you need a little tutorial on how to do knots, click on our link on the side over here. Next up, I would say, is always have a second halyard if possible. Redundancy is your friend here. You want one just in case the first one something happens. You have a second one to back you up. Take a leash, clip it onto your halyard, take it around the other halyard and clip it back. This is just in case you fall down. You can only really swing out about 1 meter. Establish a way of communicating between your crew member on the winch and the person going up the mast so that you're both clear on what to do when you need to do something. Consider taking a handheld VHF or something like this if you're on a very big boat with a long mast. Lock your halyard in the jammer or tie the halyard around your winch while the work's being done, and make sure you always do a bounce test just before you head up, just to make sure everything is taut and holding well. So it's super important that you're always keeping a good eye on the person going up the mast, and the person who's operating the winch is quite comfortable operating winches and has quite a bit of experience in it, because obviously the person going up the mast, life is in that person's hands. Power winches might seem like a good idea, you just press a button and go up, but this can really cause a lot of problems. Those power winches are extremely strong and it can lead to some serious injury, so try avoid those. When you're climbing up the mast, always be careful with lights, Windexes, other sensitive gear that you don't want to be swinging and smashing into as you're going up. Obviously it's not always possible, but ideally you would like to only ascend the mast in situations where the weather is really good. If you have electrical storms around, squalls, other things like this, it could just lead to a nightmare that you don't want to be in. So today we got a perfectly blue day, so pretty good time to send it up the mast and lube this track.
Yeah!
So you need a bosun's chair, super important. You want a bag to have all your tools in, and ideally you want your tools tied onto a lanyard. If a tool falls from the top of the mast and come down, you don't want that at all. If it's not required, but if you feel more comfortable, you can put on shoes, gloves, all these kind of things just to make sure you get up safe. For the third method, we'll also be using an ascender and a descender, so we'll explain how to do this. It's basically just 2 different pieces of line, a couple of double fisherman knots locked together. More onto that later. Alright, so we're going to work through the traditional method first. We have our bosun's chair over here. We're going to use our primary spinnaker halyard and our second spinnaker halyard. Any line or halyard that's running from the top of the mast will do the job. So you see we have a shackle at the end here, but we don't want to use that because you can trust your knots, whereas shackles, they do fail. So I'm just going to take the line through and just tie a bit of a bowline, which is very nice knot for going up the mast, just because you know it's so good. I'm having to do it with a double line just because it's really not, the shackle is too big to go through. So I've got a bowline here and I can actually just take this clip it on the end, on the bow, and that's just a double safety. So that's really not coming off at all, that's super strong. After I've tied my first one, I'll get my second halyard using starboard spinnaker halyard. Make sure it's clean, running nice and smoothly up, and then I can just go ahead and do the same thing. Really do recommend using 2 halyards. Redundancy is your friend here, and if something was to go wrong with one, having that second one is just great. So I got my 2 halyards. I'm gonna get my winchmen on the winches, if that's cool, my crew members, the Sailing Virgins photographers and videographers who actually do know how to use winches very well, as they live on the boat, training with us.
You can see here we've filled up the drum, and you've just got to make sure your stopper is closed.
So here I am, I got my bosun's chair, I've already checked it, quite happy with it. This one's even got these shoulder straps, which is really cool. Got myself in. Tied my 2 bowlines on my primary halyard and my secondary halyard. I got my winch crew members over there, Gus from Australia on the primary halyard, and I got John from Canada. On the side over here, I got my bag with my lube inside, which I'm about to lube my mast with, lube my track. This over here is just the leash we were talking about, and all this is doing is just that I can't swing out too far. In these kind of conditions, it's not really necessary. But if you were going up on quite a rocky day, it's really good. And just before going up, I'm just gonna do a bounce test. So I'm just sitting on it at a low height, making sure that she's good, double checking my bowlines. I'm looking good, I'm comfortable, and I'm ready to go up now. So I'm just gonna tell my boys to start winching me over there. Crank it, motherfuckers!
How's that, Gus? You look a bit puffed.
What? No, I'm good. Get this water out of here.
Yeah?
Should we go again? Alright, so we're about to lower Marco down. Obviously, depending on the size of the person, is to how many loops you have around. So I'm going to take 3 off and leave 3 on because he's not such a big guy. And then you've got to be really careful when you're opening the jammer because you've got to have control the whole time just in case he lows. And of course, be sure that your rope's flaked so it just flows through and you're not getting yourself in a jam.
And that's it. Safe maneuverability going up and down the mast.
Yeah!
So the second method, basically everything is the same, except I'm climbing up and they're taking up my slack. The benefit of this is that I'm always really holding onto a piece of the rigging while I climb up. If the person at the winch is weak or the winches are really small, they might really have a tough time getting the person up. So this way the person climbing is really doing a lot of the work. And it is just so much faster. As you saw, just being winched up the whole entire way is quite tedious. So we're going to demonstrate now how this can be way faster. Cool. So I climb and you just take up the slack.
Team ready?
So it is recommended to use gloves on this method, but I've formed calluses over the years, so gonna use those natural made gloves instead, you know? All right boys, let's go. Now this is why it's always good to have a lanyard on your devices when you're working up at the top of the mast, because as you can see it's quite high height, and I'm gonna throw it down. I'll show you. 3, 2, 1. Alright guys, so now we're going to show you the third way of getting up the mast, going up solo. This should rarely be used, but if you're in the shit and you're by yourself and you have to get up the mast, this is basically the best method to do it. Alright, so for this method you need a halyard tightened, hooked on the base, tightened to the top, quite tight. We're going to tighten this halyard a bit before going up. Then you need 3 tethers. And it's very important that these tethers are of a smaller diameter than the halyard, and you're going to see why in a second. What we do then is we take the tethers and we essentially tie 2 double fishermans And how we do this knot is quite simple. So you just cross it over, wrap it around again, and you come through the cross. And that's one fisherman. And you come around on the other side now. You take the other end, you go around once again and through the cross. And here we have our double fisherman. And when you tighten this, they basically tighten onto each other, which is really cool. And all we do here then is we take this end onto our halyard, and what we're going to do essentially is just wrap it around once, twice, thrice. And after the third one, we're going to pull the fisherman back through, and you want to take up all the slack here, and you want to neaten this up, okay? So it's actually, this is a bit of a climber's knot, and it can be quite effective for on sailing boats as well. So not technically a sailor's knot, but if you're solo and gotta go up the mast, this is the safest way to do it. Climbers really do know their knots. So the great thing about this is once it's set up, as you can see, it looks like that. And this over here, when you can put tension on it, pull down, because the lanyard is got a smaller diameter than the halyard, you can just put all your weight on that and no way it's going to slide. There's enough friction, but at the same time, when you release the tension, you can slide it up, right? It's a combination of this method how we're going to get up. So you attach the one, you get on, take the second one, the slightly longer one, which will be at the base. You do the same thing. We've got our double fishermans, pull them tight around once, twice, thrice, feed it through, pull on it, neaten it up. Just takes a second. Exactly like that, nice and neat. At the beginning it looks like a mess, nice and neat. And what we're going to do now is you can have a third one as a safety backup. You can even put on a second halyard if you would like. But the fundamentals of this going up solo is going to be in your bosun's chair or in your harness, if you have a harness. This bosun's chair is actually really nice. And what we want to do is, if you had a carabiner, you could just take this and attach it onto here. And afterwards you have your section for the foot over here. And basically you're just going to work your way up. So you have your carabiner, weight on that, slide up, weight on the foot, slide up. And you alter the two to go up. Put some gloves on, which I don't do often, but when you're working with a lot of rope, you don't want to get any rope burns. If I was going up way further, I would attach a third one onto the spare halyard, but I'm just going to go up a few meters just to demonstrate exactly how to do it. So, got the one for my feet, got the one for my harness over here. All I do, put the weight on the one for my feet, and as I do that, I can slide up the one in the harness, and I can sit in the harness, push the one up on the feet, put the weight back on the feet as I slide the one up on the harness. As I've done that, bring the foot one up, weight on the foot, slide the one up the harness. Done that, foot one up, weight on the foot, slide up the harness, foot one up, and just continuing like this. You can slowly work your way up the mast. As you can see, it's not ideal, but it really is the only way to go up solo. So I'm just going to go up here a bit further, as one of our students has told us that our courtesy flag is not looking sexy. And rule number one's always look good, so. Whew. Tricky part's actually coming down. Alright, sweet. Now just to demonstrate the last bit of how I got down. So basically, you're going to put your weight on the base, on the foot one. Bring yourself up, take the slack off, take the tension off the top one, and then you can slide it down. Preceding that, you can just sit back on your harness, because the top one's taking your tension. Slide your foot one down, just far enough that you can stand on your foot one to take the tension, and then slide the top one down, sit in it, take the tension off the foot one, slide it down. And it's just this continuous, opposing tensions, and you can work your way all the way down. So this method is slightly tricky, but it really is the safest and best method you can use if you have to get up the mast being solo. It's a bit safer than climbing up like a monkey with no strings attached at all. So would definitely recommend that.
Boom.
Boom. So yeah, so that's basically it. Now you know 3 safe and different methods of getting up the mast, which is quite cool. Now let's go over to an adventure. Last week we sailed from St. Martin, passed by this tiny island called Saba. We ended up summiting Mount Scenery, just over 3,000 foot high. It was an epic adventure, something I would love to do again. So let's head over there and let Forrest show you what we got up to.
She says, don't you remember when you were just a child? And we would chase each other up and down the backyard. And now that we're older, we'll never be sober. Let the good times flow. But numbers don't matter, we're moving slower, we're never young forever. But you cannot see it, no you cannot feel it, you'll never know.
So here we are, we made it to the top of Mount Scenery, 3,100 feet high, the tallest part in the Netherlands. And the last section, if you look back there, I'm sure Forrest is going to show you some of the densest forest I've ever seen in my life. And I'm all the way from Africa, so that's pretty hardcore. And absolutely beautiful silence up here, we're amongst the clouds.
How are you guys feeling?
Amazing, it's beautiful.
You want some lettuce, man? Me chicken. That is literally the highest chicken in the Netherlands.
Now that we're older, we'll never be sober. Let the good times flow.
Alright, sweet guys, so we just finished off an epic day mission around the island. I cannot believe the views on here, honestly. We took a taxi ride around, full tour of the island. There's views everywhere, sheer cliffs, you can see for miles and miles and miles, absolutely gorgeous. You know, not a lot of people come here, not a lot of sailors come here at all because it's really exposed, very unprotected. There's this small commercial harbor which I was able to kind of wiggle our way in, which I'm really lucky about because the mooring balls around the corner where we spent last night can be seriously rolly. So I was able to make friends with the guy, with the port officer, and was able to get in here, which is awesome. So we just got back now, tied up alongside here. It's a bit surgy, but it should be okay. And we're gonna get the dinghy up and get ready for the 100-mile passage down to the BVIs, which will be departing off about 3 AM. So get the boat ship shape and ready for that passage. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Check us out next time for the next video. Check that awesome sunset as well. Peace.
Forever, let the good times flow.
Sailing
Never young
Virgins.